Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Formula One controversies of all time. Formula One is known for massive racing across many countries and all that. It's not just one country tour. It's brought in some great legends from the past, present, and maybe future. So anyway, Formula One has had some bad breaks and all that with controversies and all that. So anyway, um, here we go. So anyway, the first um controversy is kind of one that might happen, but kind of is happening right now. Number 10 is the fact that the 2026 World Drivers' Championship will be held in Monaco in June and Canadian Grand Prix in May. Everybody knows on the calendar that Monaco is in May, the same day as the Indy 500 in like open wheel racing, and of course the Charlotte 600, the Coca-Cola 600 in stock cars. It's called the Holy Trinity of racing. You have Monaco in the morning, Indy in the afternoon, and Charlotte in the evening. But now, according to the 2026 calendar, that day will be filled with the Canadian Grand Prix, which is going to be a massive problem because you got fans who like the Canadian Grand Prix and the Indy 500, like yours truly, and now we'll have to choose which one we'll watch because they'll both will be on the same time. Like Fox will have it on, will have the race, the Indy 500, and ABC will have the Canadian Grand Prix at the same time. What's even worse is they moved Monaco to June, which kind of pisses me off because you know Monaco deserves to be in May and all that. The Canadian Grand Prix you can put maybe a 1 week earlier in June, like not on Father's Day weekend. But I mean, that's just pathetic what they're trying to do and all that. I'm sorry, but that's just me. Number 9 is the secret fuel tank from BAR or British American Racing 2005. BAR Honda made it big. In 1999, they made a massive move picking up Jacques Villeneuve to be put on their team because, they wanted to give Americans some hope in F1 and put Jacques Villeneuve, the former world champion, there. Unfortunately for them, they had a hidden secondary fuel tank, violating technical regulations and practically just making them fuel up better. I don't think they really benefited from the secret fuel tank, but they found it. And the team was banned for 2 races, so that was huge. Number 8 is Ferrari's power unit investigation 2019. So in 2019, Ferrari had troubles. Their engines on their 2019 cars had trouble, bad legality. They had a power unit investigation that gave it more power down the straightaways and all that. Ferrari, of course, is basically the number one team, a lot of people say, with Mercedes Benz practically they're Red Bull fighting off. I feel like Ferrari is basically the bad guys and the good guys are Mercedes Benz, but that's just me. But yeah, the FIA, the guys who do this thing, had a secret settlement with Ferrari over the legality. And people thought there would be some things about fixing. But fix. It's like, fix, fix, fix. Why would you do such a thing like that? And a lot of people would be like, I don't get it. Okay. So number 7 is the Senna Proust rivalry. In the late 80s, 90s, these two would have a fierce competition, despite the fact that Senna and Proust at one time were teammates and all that. Their races in 1989 and 1990 at Suzuka in Japan for the Japan Grand Prix made championship outcomes big. In 1989, Senna and Prost were fighting for the championship with one more race to go in Australia. But anyhow, Senna decided to turn into Prost and all that, trying to get rid of Prost and maybe having a chance to win in Australia. Both cars crashed out and all that, but Senna managed to get help from his team an illegal push start, and even worse, he went through the chicane, the no chicane that wasn't supposed to be there to rejoin the race because it's there for safety reasons. So he kind of illegally rejoined the race. He won the race, but then was penalized for going through the chicane, the illegal chicane, and he was stripped. And Nannini finally won an F1 race. Prost was given the championship, and then in 1990 they would fight again. Prost and Senna collided again, but this time Senna won the title on that order. So that's pretty impressive. Number 6 is the Grand Prix team orders in 2002 in Austria. Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher were teammates and all that. Barrichello from Brazil, Schumi from Germany. Schumacher had won a couple of F1 titles and all that. So anyhow, Ferrari favored him, Schumi over Barrichello. So what ended up happening was that in Austria, Barrichello was winning, but Ferrari basically told Rubens to back off and let Michael Schumacher pass for victory because Schumi needed some kind of victory. I think it was a victory to tie Ayrton Senna. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that it was just terrible and all that. Team orders were placed in late, and a lot of people didn't like what they implied. So that was just pure stupidity in every sense of the word. Number 5 is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix 2021. We all know this one. Well, fans of F1 the past decade know about this one. It's when the final race of the year was at Abu Dhabi. And it would be down to Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen for the World Championship. And of course, as a Mercedes Benz guy, I was hoping for Lewis to win the race and prove everyone wrong. Unfortunately, though, what ended up happening was that near the end of the race, the Canadian driver, what is his name? Not Stroll, but the Canadian, that Napa baby, who's out. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the Napa baby crashed his car, and there was a massive crash. And then normally it'd be like, well, there were 5 cars the cars were not allowed to beat the lap cars and all that. They would have to play where they are. However, the safety car procedures was huge, and Formula One decided to let those lapped cars come back in, like the leaders and all that. And it set up Verstappen versus Hamilton final lap for the title, which Verstappen won. People were upset, saying that F1 was just playing politics and F1 was just trying to get a made-for-TV ending and all that for the ratings. The main guy passed off his train. He was erased as race director of F1. Michael Massey just quit. Couldn't take the pressure. And Verstappen had won 4 straight world titles until 2025 when Lando Norris took it. So that's good news. Number 4 is the U.S. Grand Prix tire fiasco of 2005. In 2005, the U.S. Grand Prix was in full swing. Indianapolis Motor Speedway was going to have the race, and instead of the oval that we usually see with the Indy 500, they would be doing the road course and all that with all those corners. Unfortunately, though, a corner was basically flagged for being terrible, and they wanted a tire change, which was illegal at the time. Like, you couldn't tire change. So unfortunately, Michelin tires had problems and all that because they kept blowing out and all that. So unfortunately, all the teams that had Michelin tires on there would actually not be racing at Indianapolis. They were pulled into the pits and all that. Well, the other ones on Bridgestone tires could compete. So there were only 6 cars, including Michael Schumacher and Ferrari at the front of the pack. Schumi obviously won. as I look at the stuff. Yeah, there was only 6 races and all that. And only 6 racers. 6 people finished. And there was Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello for Ferrari. The two Jordans, Diego Montero from Portugal and Narine Karifikian of India, finished fourth. And the two minorities of Christian Albers and Patrick Friesacker were fifth and sixth. So the guys who didn't race were Trulli, Raikkonen, Button, Fisichella, Alonso, Sato, Weber, Massa, Montoya, my boy Jacques Villeneuve, Santa, Klein, Highfield, and Coulthard. So yeah, this was actually Schumacher's only victory of 2005. And a lot of people were upset that it may have helped Schumi out and all that. We'll talk about Schumi a little bit more later. Well, it infuriated fans, damaged everyone's reputation in North America. Well, in America, honestly. Canada, like, we always had the reputation for F1 being good and all that. So yeah, that was just terrible and all that. They did fix the problem, kind of. Number 3 is Crashgate. To me, Crashgate was not that good and all that. Renault doing what Ferrari did 6 years prior, and instructed Nelson Piquet to help Fernando Alonso win the race. However, it wasn't to let him pass. Renault told Piquet Jr. to actually deliberately crash so that the safety car could come out and Fernando Alonso would win the race. Piquet kind of did that. I think he had second thoughts, but he went along with it. Unfortunately, Renault would be in deep trouble. They would be banned for races. They were banned from the team competition, widespread criticism, and a lot of people were mad about team orders and all of that. Team orders still agree. Number 2 is Michael Schumacher trying to crash out opponents twice. Schumi was a decent driver and all that, but he was known for his competitiveness that clouded his judgment. In 1994, on the final race in Australia, when Australia was the final race, he was in a tight battle with Damon Hill, who had just come into Formula One, trying to follow in the footsteps of his father, Graham Hill. Anyhow, Schumi bumped into Damon Hill and caused Damon to crash out. Schumi would be the champion. And no, this was not when Schumi was part of Ferrari. This was before Ferrari. So anyway, he didn't get penalized for his problems in 94. And then in 97, he was racing my boy, my birthday twinsy, Jacques Villeneuve, because he was born April 9th, 1970. I was born April 9th, 1985. But yeah, so Schumi and Jacques were in it. And again, Schumi had to deal with the son of a former F1 legend, and Jacques being the son, of Gilles Villeneuve. There was a lot of questions about sportsmanship. I know there was Schumi. Schumi at the European Grand Prix decided to run into Jacques' car and knock him out. Unfortunately, though, Schumi knocked himself out. Villeneuve had a little bit of damage, but it was enough to keep going, and Schumi was out of the race. The commentators like Murray Walker and his associate basically said that Schumi had hit the wrong side of Jacques and all that. They kind of knew that was coming. Well, Schumi was destroyed. Villeneuve did take third as, I believe, Hakkinen won his first F1 race of all time. And the worst part about everything was that Schumi didn't get off scot-free this time. He was banned from the 97 championship, meaning that his second place would be null and void. Every race result would be kind of tainted. He lost his points, and he would be forced to do some kind of European safety campaign to allow him to start the 1998 season. So that's what happened. And, Schumi at least didn't get away with it this time. Those meddling kids. Number 1 is Spygate, 2007. Much akin to the NFL Spygate, F1 had their own problems with Spygate. McLaren actually was a decent team and all that. They ended up picking up somebody from Ferrari, like a technical director, who switched from Ferrari to McLaren. The only problem was that he took the files with him, and of course, those were Ferrari's files, and you weren't supposed to do that. So Ferrari had confidential data. McLaren knew what Ferrari would do and try to copy them and beat them and all that. The joke was on them. They ended up being fined $100 million and excluded it from the constructors, aka team championship. It's just crazy and all that. Like it's like the Astros years later. I think a few years prior to that, Houston had hired someone from the St. Louis Cardinals and managed to hack into their emails and all that. But yeah, so that was just pathetic what they would do. You know, you can't possess other teams' data and all that. I mean, you're probably people would accuse Ferrari of doing the same tactics, but they didn't really do those tactics. So you can't blame them at all. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.